Cold hand, sharp pencil, I scribble the stanza as my hands are trembling. Grade 7 made heaven out of words. I began to build a world that only I inhabit. I got a habit of rapping about tragic shit. I think I'm just passionate, trying to steer the way while in the dark. Hope I ain't crashing it. Now my little hobby turned to cash now. Thinking about who I'd be if I listen to doubt. Said I'd never do it, well look at me now. Young girl, oh dream, oh soul, oh dear. Plan B, plan well, good luck, no fear. Just wait and God will tell you when the time's near. But if I never jump, then I die here. Ain't don't ride till you pick up speed. They think college is all you need. And I don't blame you brainwashing on you, G. It took me 19 years to finally start to believe. And that's me, listen.
I'ma make it in the rain or shine. All about my money, don't waste my time. Ain't nobody gonna bring me down. I'm on an elevator. I'm on to something greater. Ain't nobody gonna take my crown.
Okay, this is for the kids with depression. The ones whose parental expectations got them stressing. The ones who would rather persevere, but they ain't trying to make it cause they ain't really living in the present. They out here grinding, seeking perfect timing, tuning out the useless voices that discourage rhyming. Get a real job, I don't argue with my destiny. And if my choices don't affect you, why you testing me? And as of late, I've been asking God why he blessing me. I could cry enough tears to feel the Chesapeake. Hold it together, girl, you deserve the world. And if no one else will say it, then I spit it to the mic in the studio when I lay it. And I play it when you discouraged. I know chasing the impossible takes some courage. And I can promise at the end of your journey, when it's all said and done, will nothing feel much better than hearing my nigga you won. Hey,
I'ma make it in the rain or shine. All about my money, don't waste my time. Ain't nobody gonna bring me down. I'm on an elevator. I'm on to something greater. Ain't nobody gonna take my crown.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for that support. Woo! Yes. I love that song so much. Thank you out there to all who are joining in right now. If you would like to know who that artist is, if you don't already know, their name is Chika. 10 out of 10 would recommend to any friend. Thank you so much for joining us on this snowy, freezing Saturday afternoon. You know, when we're attached to screens all the time, it can feel like on the weekend you want to put that screen away, but I don't know about you, but I'm definitely not going outside. So right here seems like the perfect place to be. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jay O'Leary Woods. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a director, educator, performer, and one of the co-artistic directors of Sound Theater Company. Big shout out to Rosa Joshi for thinking of me to host this gathering. Thank you. This event is being recorded and will be available online with a transcript within a few days. While sharing digital space, it is almost a guarantee to have some kind of connectivity issues. If we happen to experience any of that today, I would like to ask you and us back here to hold on to the last thing that was said and allow yourself a few moments to breathe with that thought or idea until we can come back and hopefully resolve those issues. I invite you to set some intentions for our time together. It could be something as simple as being grateful to be in space with fellow artists today. This symposium is being presented as part of Uncharted Waters, a unique and ambitious collaboration between Cornish College of the Arts, University of Washington School of Drama, and Seattle University Theater that imagines a new way for educational institutions to work together within a community. In March, these 3 institutions will present 2 plays. 12th Night, directed by Seattle University faculty Rosa Joshi, and Bodies of Water, a devised piece created in conversation with the themes of 12th Night, directed by UW drama alum Portia Shaw and Cornish College faculty Sheila Daniels. Uncharted Waters features the artistic and production work of student artists, faculty, and staff from all 3 schools. Both productions are being rehearsed and performed entirely online. Okay, before we really get into the groove, we must acknowledge the spiritual and cultural ties of the Coast Salish people to these indigenous lands upon which we are gathered. We unite as stakeholders in the 1855 Treaty of Point Elliott, which recognizes the sovereign right of tribes to defend and sustain those ancestral relationships for the benefit of all. We also acknowledge that we are gathered in a digital space that is possible through our complicity in economies of extraction. Consider the origin of the street names that surround the place you currently occupy and the history, privilege, and the systems of white supremacy that created them. And now I'm gonna call forth all of our panelists to the screen, to the digital stage. Woo! Yes. Thank you so much for being here, y'all, and to come and offer up your ideas about how we can be more relational and human-centric in our collaborations. Please go ahead and we'll pick somebody to start. I'll find one, and we'll just go around and introduce ourselves by our name, pronouns, and primary artistic disciplines. We have some student reps who are sitting on the panel, some alum and some current. And so they'll share their name, the institution that they're from, and their major. So let's see, let's start with Kathy.
I had a feeling you're going to choose me. Kathy Shah, she, her pronouns. My primary discipline is I am a theater artist in every respect, acting, directing, producing, does some design work, and I am a UW alum.
Great, Yehan.
Hi, my name is Yehan Osanyin. My pronouns are they, them. And Kathy, I love that you're like, I'm just an all-around theater artist. Yes, I'm an all-around theater artist. I'm a director, a playwright, and an actor. I'm a member of the Actors Equity Association, and I also am a ceramic artist, and I run an organization that uses theater and wild spaces to decolonize those spaces and the bodies that pass through them. Braden?
Thanks, Yehan. It's great to be with you all today. I'm Braden Abraham. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a theater director, and I'm also the artistic director at Seattle Rep.
Cool. Let's bring in our student reps, the team. Go ahead, start us off, Talia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Talia Rossi, and I am a senior at Seattle University. I'm currently studying psychology and theater, and I'm also a cast member in 12th Night. And I'll pass it to Andrew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Koopman. I use he, they pronouns. I'm a storyteller by trade. Right now, that takes the form of being a third-year MFA in directing candidate. I'm just a few weeks from graduation. Yes. And I'm so excited to be here sharing space with such wonderful collaborative artists. I'll throw it to Sharmona.
Hello, my name is Sharmona Mitchell. I use she, they pronouns. I am a storyteller and a theatrical artist as well, based in Seattle. I have a degree from Cornish College of the Arts in theater. And yeah, Brandon, tell me about it.
What's up? What's good? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brandon Jones Mooney. I use he, him pronouns. I am a theater artist. I make a bunch of theater, storytelling. 2018 graduating class of Pacific Conservatory of the Performing Arts, 2020 graduating class of Cornish College of the Arts, as well as founder of Young Hot Thespian Theater Collective, which Young Hot Thespian is the regime. The takeover is now. Kick it back to Jay.
I love that tagline so much. I've started to say like the takeover is now. I just want you to just like straight like a radio DJ, young hot thespian, the takeover now. It's great. Y'all should Google that. Look them up. Thank you. Let's see. What is next? Yeah, there's a lot of brilliance in this space, y'all. These student reps are going to engage us as panelists in a conversation based on questions that have come directly from students in all three institutions about how we can create a healthier and more unified community here in Seattle. We'll have time at the end, just about 15 minutes or so, for any questions that you as our guests out there may have. So please drop them in. There should be a comment section, or it's going to act as a chat, because I think you can give us a yes or whatever, right? You can be like, Sharmona dropping knowledge, because that is always a guarantee. No pressure, Sharmona. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Brandon, I believe you have the first question.
I do have the first question, and let's start it off. Drum roll. What does community mean to you? Do I pick who says it too?
Oh Lord, he said, can I put somebody on the spot? And then Brandon, you can call on any one of us. Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. Sharmona, what does community mean to you?
Okay, I see you. Community is a lot of things. Community are the people who support you. They're the people that see you. They're the people that lift you up. But in return, you're also doing the same thing. So you're supporting them. You're lifting them up. You're holding them accountable. I think there's a lot of things about community. They're the people that you eat with, because really, if you can't eat with a human, what can you do? So yeah, I think that's a really great jumping off point for me. Those are definitely what I need. There are definitely more things that I need, but I need that as a very strong foundation for community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Add on. Yeah. Yeah, I think the first thing that came to mind for me is zip code. So my community is in my zip code. Some of my community members are housed. Some of my community members are unhoused. My community is Beacon Hill. I also think your community are the people that want to do well by you, and also don't necessarily want to do well by you. I think community also extends to the people that have the ability to impact your life financially. And I also think community are like-minded folks, and folks who are just kind of thinking around the same ways around the same thing. Kathy, what do you think?
Thanks, Yehan. I actually think of community in a broader sense. I use the term family to represent the people that are closest to me, my actual blood family, as well as my circle of friends that I consider family. But when I use the word community, I think it's because my day job is working as a public servant. I actually think of community as that broader sense of all the people that we share geography with, and even beyond that, because now in the virtual realm, right, our geography is very different than it might have used to have been. And so for me, community might be a lot of people who are strangers, but then if we really believe in a beloved community together, that means we need to support each other even when we don't necessarily know all of the people in our community, because the only way we can actually grow together as a community is we need to do things like wear our masks, because that protects everyone else in our community. So they may be complete strangers, but it's what we do to really support our environment, our ecosystem, the theater community of a lot of other people that I might never get to do a show with. But if we all work together, we're going to change things together, and we're definitely stronger together. So for me, community is much broader. Braden, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, all those things. I think there's definitely something that is mutualistic about community, where it's the space in which you can see and be seen and listen and be heard by others, and that the folks that you're with are invested in the place. as much as you are. So I really think of community like a healthy forest in a way, where there's all kinds of plants and animals working and living together for mutual benefit. And I think when I think of theater, I think of who are the folks that if they weren't there, you wouldn't exist as a theater. So I think, when we make theater together and when we make theater with community, we have to do it in such a way where there is mutual benefit, and whereby if we made that theater without that community, that theater wouldn't be there. So I think about it in that way.
Yes, to all of our furry community.
Yes.
We just did a workshop the other day on self-care, and in the chat, the thing that sparked the most interest and engagement were all the people talking about their pets and how much that community of our furry loved ones have really benefited all of us during this time.
I'd love to kind of send us in a different way, still staying on this, because this is all very delicious to me. These answers are wonderful. I'd like to ask specifically, can you speak about when you know that you've been not just invited to be in community with folks, but that you are accepted into that community with folks, that your presence is actually wanted? And what does that feel like? What does that look like to you when you know that a community space you're entering actually wants your presence there? What's kind of going on in the vibe of that space that communicates to you that you are absolutely welcome in that space? Talia?
Yeah, I'd love to start. I feel like as a student, something that I feel really strongly about coming into a community of other students and in an educational setting is the ability for growth, especially giving students in the time that we're in kind of the grace to make mistakes and have the time to break down and feel like this world is not fair and not giving anything to us, and then feel like as a community of students and teachers and faculty, we can kind of build each other back up because we're all in such a new place. And, as someone who's graduating soon, it is really scary to think about what the world is going to look like in the next year or two, especially for theater artists. And so I feel like that community that I feel in school is one of growth and support. And that's how I know that I should be there and that this is something I should do for the rest of my life, or at least for as long as I can.
Great. Andrew?
Yeah, I also think community has a lot to do with the place where you can show up totally authentically and fully yourself. I've been in my journey through life in communities where I haven't been able to do that. So I think, Jay, to answer your question, I think it's that space where you can show up and be and make and do and challenge and hold accountable and know that they'll catch you and know you'll catch others and eventually fly. That genuine space of, and it could be anywhere, because yeah, we're virtual right now, but that community still exists. I can reach out to my chosen family and know that they've got my back, even when we're 5, 10, 100,000 miles apart. So I would definitely say that feeling of showing up in genuineness and being able to authentically be present as your full self is definitely a sense of community.
Mm.
And I would add to that, like, all of yourselves, all of the parts of yourself, all of the ways you show up, all of the different sides of who you are, and all of those identities. I think that we often feel a pressure to show up in a certain way in certain spaces. And I think when we can show up in multiple ways in the same space, to me, that's community too.
For sure. I think that it's one of the most beautiful things ever, finding that that nice group of people that is on the same type of wavelength as you. Like, I come from the home of the Black Panthers, so I believe that community, you start within and then you work outwards. And when you find that nice core group of people that that do what you do and talk like how you talk, and you guys are on that mission, is powerful. I don't think that there's nothing that could be stopped. That just that collaboration is unlike anything else.
Yeah, I love Andrew's answer, because that's usually what I would say too, is where I feel like I'm actually really introverted, and have always been really shy in social settings in particular. I think that's why I became an actor, so that I could just use other people's lines and words instead of my own. So when I go into spaces, there are sometimes when I'll go into a space, theater lobby or out in community, and it just feels like the space opens up to let me in, and that I can just be myself, and I have a really goofy side that most people don't actually see because I'm really shy about it. But when I really feel accepted, those special people get to see my goofy side. And then, like, I'm getting nervous right now, just, but then there are other spaces that I'll go into, and it feels like people kind of close themselves off physically and emotionally, and I feel absolutely invisible. Like, I feel like even if I say something, like, people aren't really listening to me, and that just closes me off. So I love spaces where it just feels like it opens up, and for me, it's a very visceral thing.
So Jay, I love that question for a lot of reasons. I'm super uncomfortable right now, and I'll talk about it. Like, my heart is racing, because I've been getting more into astrology. And so I'm an Aquarius moon, and I've learned that Aquarius moons don't often feel like they belong. So I'm naming that as a part of the given circumstances of my answer. And I don't often feel like all my pieces, right? Like, I don't feel like I am at home or that I am welcome fully unless I have created that space. And that's why I've started my own company. That's why I don't live in the zip code that I was born or the zip code in which I grew up. And so I think one of the things about being in this, trans, Black, queer body is that I have to piecemeal and, like, almost Hannibal Lecter give some of my parts to other people, because there aren't a lot of folks, particularly in this new world that we're in, because I don't see a lot of people, and Kathy, you mentioned this, around masks. Like, the way in which we're caring for each other, the way in which we're loving each other, the way in which we're holding each other accountable does not right now, like, strike up to a place where I feel like all of me is welcome. And so I know that in the other world, but I don't know this in a world where, folks are fighting for vaccines, where people are getting fired because they gave a vaccine out because it was open. So in this new world, I don't know. I think my house is my community. There are plants. But yeah.
Thank you for that offering into space. I'm having some connectivity issues, those connectivity issues I mentioned, and I'm trying not to get tense about it. So I think this whole screen is frozen, and I don't know. So I'm going to let somebody else speak, and maybe because it's still frozen for me. So I'm going to put myself on mute and let y'all continue.
Is there another question that any of the student reps have?
Yeah, I have a question from a student. We are in a time where we don't know what the after of this looks like, and there's for those of us who are getting ready to graduate, and some of the students who submitted questions getting ready to graduate, there's maybe a fear of a scarcity mindset around the art that might exist post-pandemic. But so the question is, how do you keep from getting too competitive? How do you remind yourself to always support your peers in your own journey as well as their journey? And I'll throw it to Kathy first.
Thank you. I actually love this question, because when I graduated from the UW, I had that same fear, because I'll just speak as an Asian American woman. I remember some of my first auditions professionally. You'd go into a room, a casting office, and everyone else would be Asian American women that looked just like me. And then you feel like the people that you should be most connected to, people who look like me, the system makes it feel like they're your competition. And I hated that feeling, because I fell in love with theater because I love the collaboration of people. So I actually decided to intentionally create space where I gathered other Asian American actors and created an actors group together so that we could actually, if there was an audition we knew that was coming up, and back then in Seattle, I will say that if there was an audition, it was usually for an Asian American, it was usually because they were doing an Asian American specific play. That was the only times we were ever considered or brought in. So we knew we would be competing with each other, and to compete against that feeling of competition, we actually created what I consider a beloved community of Asian American actors, where we'd get together every weekend to do acting exercises and improv together. And then whenever there was an audition, we would actually work on our audition pieces together. I even, brought in accompanists if it was a musical theater audition, choreographers to help us if it was a dance audition, so we could run through all the paces together. And that way we became a family. So when the audition happened, whoever got chosen for the role, we all felt like, oh, great, one of our family members got it. And even though, of course, you always feel disappointed to not get the role, but because we had so bonded together that we actually felt like excited that that person got the role. And then I would gather everyone together and we would go support them on opening night or a preview. And that way, you actually work to intentionally create anti-competition, because in anti-racism work, you have to work against how the system sets you up to compete against each other by actually creating community with each other.
How about you, Yehan?
So one of the things I think is important to understand that scarcity is a tool of white body supremacy. And so when you're beginning to feel as though there is scarcity, know that that is white supremacy and white body supremacy doing its good work in your body. And by good work, I mean bad work. Because it is this illusion that they're the only places to act are like ACT, Seattle Rep, WET, right? Like we have the ones that like, oh, when there are generals, we go, Village, like, that. And that means that, and I went to a conservatory in Pittsburgh for my theater undergrad, and part of my theater training was, and I realized this morning, was like, give up your own economy, give up your own financial power, give up your own power in all the ways in which you have power, to then enter into this bottom rung believing you have to fight to the top to like even earn your place as a person that has a position of power in, let's say, a traditional theater section or like world. And so the thing that is true is the thing that is true for me around like scarcity mindset is realizing and understanding who I am as a human being, and realizing that the people I've played a slave 3 times in my career. I've been performing since I was 19. And when I stopped auditioning for the roles that, theaters like to put up for Black bodies and the roles that they like to force trans bodies into telling the cis stories, I realized like, oh, I have stories and no one is going to care enough about this story unless I tell it. No one is going to fund this because I don't have the power to have the grant writers that the Rep has. I don't have the power to have the grant writers that Intiman has. I have to be able to, one, be my own producer, recognize my own economy, recognize that as an artist, you need to realize that you are also an entrepreneur. Yes, you must have your craft, but you must also understand your own budget and realize like, oh, if the theater is only giving you 15% of your budget, that's a bad investment. It's hard to live in a theater environment and as only an actor, as only a director. That's why I do so many things. It was like, as your predominant, like list the thing that you do predominantly. And I'm like, damn, Black femmes, we're like seasonal. You got a slave play going on. You got a Black play going on. Okay, yeah, seasonal. So like, yeah, I divested from the traditional economy and brought up my own economy. I went to Spain and realized like, oh, that's right. It's not just about me being an actor who is going to general. It's not just about me waiting for my friends to ask me to audition. It's about me going to another country and using the art in the 3 languages that I know to write work and to create work that I want to direct people in that really matters, and to step into my own power as an artist.
One thing that helps me not be competitive is knowing that the standard is myself. And if I got love for anyone, if you breathe air like I do, I love you. So I feel like being competitive is a thing. It is sport. There's something healthy in that, but in moderation. I think that me being myself, Brandon Jones Mooney, the only Brandon Jones Mooney on the planet that exists, and my only competition. Therefore, anyone else that's outside of that, it's all love. Everything in life is a blessing or a lesson, so there is no losses. If I go up for a role that I think that I was really made for, it was for me, and I don't get it, then maybe it wasn't, and there's something that I'm supposed to learn from that to take on to the next thing. Also, being for sure being Black, definitely in Seattle for sure, where it's 7% of the population, I pretty much know every single person that I would be up in a role against, and I love seeing them win. When we go into that audition room, I'm gonna wipe the floor with you, most definitely. That's what's gonna happen. But when you win, it's all love. I'm gonna tap it up in the back room. It's all good. My best friend looks exactly like me. We are 6'1". We went to all the same colleges. We shared a room for 4 years. He is one of the greatest actors that I've ever seen with my 2 eyes. And I roll over and see him taking a role for me, and I'm happy as fuck. I couldn't be any happier because him winning isn't a loss for me. That's a win. If he can go on stage and tell the story truthfully for whatever that's supposed to be, that's a win. Because then they're gonna want to do another story that's like that similar, which means I got another shot. And if he beat me again, goddamn it, well, we gotta go again. And I don't know, I love it. I honestly, genuinely love seeing other people be good or be solid in anything, whether it's theater or just life in general. I don't know. I got a lot of love to give. No hating in my body.
Thank you so much for that offering, Brandon. I can hear people now, so that's exciting. Thank you so much for that love into space. I would say that, competitiveness for me is so tied to scarcity mindset that gets, drilled into us during our undergraduate programs, our postgraduate programs, just in the industry at large. That scarcity mindset is so damaging when really it's about abundance, and it's always about abundance. It's always about being human-centric and not product-centric. That, oh, I better nail this audition, I better get this like at any cost. When we start saying, I want something at any cost, period, we're typically meaning that I'm gonna stomp on somebody else in order to get there. And that white supremacist dictation of what it means to be on the proper path to success or the proper path to a goal, the best way to be competitive, typically means that you are absolutely perpetuating the systems which help keep folks who are really in here fighting with love down. And so competitiveness for me that's the antithesis of creation for me, for being in competition with others. I'm never in competition with others. And what starts to happen, I'm just going to put this into space real quick, and then I'm going to hop off so we can go to another question. Really quick is when we start to really be in this competitive nature, typically a lot of these primarily white institutions will decide that there's only one Filipino director, just one. And then they get all of the contracts and all of that stuff. And now they're supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be the kind of model creator that everybody else has to be judged against and in competition with. On the other side, when a primarily white institution decides that they're going to take a global majority designer, and let's say they're like, oh yeah, we'll put a global majority designer on our team for this show. Isn't that so fun? And if that global majority designer, quote, messes up in their eyes, they'll render that for the entire, for every global majority artist and decide that, nope, they're done giving opportunities. So the competitive nature goes into layer after layer after layer, and I'm not with it. When you walk into my space, a community that I'm trying to cultivate, it's about abundance. It's about how can we be as human-centric as possible. And if we're human-centric, that means that the moral compass and those guides and that kind of like weaving of brilliance in the room, that's important to me, that there's brilliance in the room abundantly. Not some people are more brilliant than others or other folks are, so on and so forth. That doesn't help anybody. There is brilliance to be had in every room, and it behooves us to weave and mine that brilliance for the betterment of the whole, right? Collectivism, not individualism. And so I'm gonna stop off that preach box.
Yes, Jay. I want to just build on what everyone's just said to kind of bookend what I said at the beginning. The result of the actors group, us working together and bonding with a huge family where we didn't feel like we were competing against each other, but we were actually supporting and uplifting each other, is that because we were working on our craft with each other on a regular basis, and we'd go into those auditions and we wanted all of us to show up and do the best possible, is that then those theater companies that just had that one Asian American role that we were all being called in for, they saw, oh my gosh, there's like 20 some people who could all be great in this role. And so when they see that much talent and brilliance, because we all worked on it together, they're like, we need to come up with some work that actually is able to give all of them work. So that's how we created our own abundance, by supporting each other. And that's where we have the control and agency to make the change we want to see.
Thank you all so much. That was just really insightful. And I think it's also a great transition kind of into our next questions, which are about organizations and institutions. So our next question is, how should shows and organizations better support their workers as theaters start to open up? In other words, what have organizations and leadership been learning during quarantine, and how might they apply that into the workspace when we do return? And I'll kind of leave it open to anyone who feels really called to answer that.
Well, I'll start because I run a large organization. You know, I think this goes to the kind of the old Rahm Emanuel saying, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And, you know, during this time, we've had two crises. We've had the COVID crisis, and we've had the race and social justice crisis with George Floyd's murder. So we've really, I think, institutions across the country, and certainly in Seattle, have been engaged in the work of, okay, who do we want to be when we reopen? How do we take this time to sort of step back and examine all of our practices? And then how do we really invest more deeply in our race and social justice work, especially with, you know, the We See White American Theater demand letter that came out, that's been so critical in, I think, helping all, especially white institutions, take a hard look at where they are with their race and social justice practices. So I think, I mean, certainly at Seattle Rep, what we've done, and, you know, we've been doing this work for a while now, but with the We See White American Theater letter, we've taken another pass at our equity plan and looked at the places where we can do more, we can do better. This goes to hiring, this goes to recruitment, both in our staff and our board. This goes to rehearsal practices. You know, we're really trying to look at it very holistically across the board, because the artists can't thrive in an institution, especially BIPOC artists, unless you're looking at it holistically. They can't thrive in a rehearsal hall if everywhere else they go in the institution is a hostile environment for them. So we're really looking at the overall plan, the strategies to put that plan in place, and the tactics that we work on every day to execute that plan. That goes to trainings and affinity groups and all of that. I think the other sort of practical thing that we're doing is really looking, and this comes again from the demand letter, and something that we've talked about, but I think are really invested in now, is, you know, looking at rehearsal practices. Do we need to rehearse 6 days a week? Do we need to have 10 out of 12s? We don't. There's other ways that we can do this, that we can support rehearsal and have a kind of more humane schedule for making the art on stage. So I think there's some real practical things. I think the other thing that we have to look at, which we all know who've worked in the arts for years, is pay equity. How does pay work across the board in your organization with artists and administrators? I think that anybody who's made a career in the arts, especially, you know, again, over the last 20 or 30 years, can tell you, whether you're an artist or an administrator, that pay has stagnated, and that we need to do some real work in addressing compensation for both artists and administrators, and figure out a way that we can create, a healthier work environment for everybody. So, I mean, that's just kind of an overview, but there's still lots of work to be done. But it's exciting to see how many theaters are engaged in this work at one time. I've never seen anything like it. And, Jay leads a group, Seattle Theater Leaders, that Kathy and I are part of, that has been meeting regularly since May. Locally, I've been on national groups with theaters across the country, 80 or so theaters engaged in racial equity work together. And of course, all the different levels within my own organization. So it really feels like there's something different happening right now, and that real change is possible and will happen when we come back.
Can I, Braden, I'm going to do something that might make you feel strange, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Because I used to work at the Rep. I was the associate director at Public Works. I was a theater teaching artist there. And so I'm curious, you said you've been doing this work for a while, and yet one of the reasons that I left the Rep was because of the way in which, staffing wise, the Rep treated, the education department, the way in which the Rep treated brown women, the way in which the Rep treated Black women. And so Jay asked me to be a part of Seattle Theater Leaders Group. And I was like, you know what? No, right now, because there are things that I'm doing on my own. And because there are folks in the Seattle Theater Leaders Group that have not done their own work to understand that they should not necessarily be at places that are national, because the work that is in their own city has not been repaired. And so I'm curious, Braden, about you. What are the ways in which you have gone to repair? Because no one has talked to me from the Rep. You've gone to repair the damage that the Rep has done to BIPOC folks and or folks of the global majority. I'm really curious. Thank you.
Well, first, Yehan, I'm sorry that that you've experienced that at the Rep and that it hasn't been repaired. And, I would love to talk to you more about that and figure out how we can repair what you've been through and what your experience has been. I think that we're trying to put systems in place around, I'm very aware of what's been going on with the education department. I'm very aware of incidents that have come up, and we're trying to correct the system so that we have a clear code of conduct, and that everybody has agency to report things when they happen, and that we have a way to repair those things immediately so that they don't fester and they don't cause long-term harm. So we are working on that, but of course, we continue to fail and we continue to try to do better. Another thing that we're doing is we're working on a kind of comprehensive history of Seattle Rep, and particularly around race in Seattle Rep. And we're gathering a group of people who've both worked at the Rep, worked for the Rep, artists, a small kind of group to look at that history, talk about it, talk about ways that we can repair things that have happened, so that when we are developing this new equity plan, that we can address things directly as they come up, or things that have happened in the past that have never been repaired. So I don't know if that speaks to your question, but those are some of the things that we're doing.
Thank you.
I'm just going to hop in right here because there are questions that the students do want to ask. So yes, Braden already spoke to it, but what are institutions actively doing about equity, about diversity, about inclusion, disability justice, and accessibility? And then more so, what policies are being made, but how do you plan to protect? How do you plan to represent, and how do you want to support global majority members? So for those of you who are not familiar with global majority members and BIPOC members, same thing, different way of saying it. So opening that up to the group. I know that Kathy has done some work in that department. Braden, you've just spoken to it. Yehan, that's just what you do. So yeah, what are folks' thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So I run a small production company called Sis Productions. We started exactly 20 and a half years ago to center the voices and potential of Asian American women in decision-making roles in theater. And we started with the concept of running theater in a different way than what was traditional. So again, remember, this is 20 years ago. A group of 4 of us, Asian American women, we did not want to have a hierarchical top-down system where certain positions are elevated above others. We did that not only on the staffing side, but also with all of our artists. So stage managers often got paid the most because they invest the most time. So we actually analyzed every single position and about how much time they put in relation to others, and then calculated pay based on that. Now, we were a fringe theater starting with just our own funds, so we were not paying a lot, and that is something we have changed since then. But what we did was we also decided it was all going to be shared leadership model, and we were experimenting with all of this because there were no theaters who were necessarily running in that way back then. Where we actually came up with a decision-making process where we would talk through everything and we all had equal vote and say, everyone working in the production. And so a lot of the things were done like that. We also rotated what we did. So I might do marketing one time and then bookkeeping the next time and production management the third time, so that we could all learn the different roles, so we could put ourselves in the shoes of all the different positions, so we would better understand some of the things that might not be visible. So those are just some examples of how we were trying to just do things differently to really change up what equity meant. And of course, all of the work that we did really centered, well, for us, it was Asian American women. But then as we started bringing on more collaborators, we really leaned onto more opportunities for women in general. And also people who are LGBTQ, and also people who were Black were many of our collaborators throughout our time period of doing things. We also realized that as a women-centered group, that there were certain things. Several of our members wanted to start having kids. Others had to take care of elderly parents. So we realized we could not keep up the pace of doing 3 main stage shows a year, plus a festival, plus other new work that we're being commissioned to do. So for the last 5 years, we've actually changed up even more. And this is a long way of saying, like, really centering the humanity of each person so that we could feel like we could take breaks when we needed to. We stopped doing regular seasons. We only produce a show when we feel ready to, when we've actually raised enough money to do the show properly, so that we can actually pay artists more, so that we can actually know that, okay, we're going to be fine. We have always been in the black because of that. We always share all the net profits with everybody working on the production. And so those are just different ways. I think that what's amazing now is all the conversations that we're having in theaters about how to fix things. These were things that we were experimenting with for the last 20 years. And so we might not be as visible because we literally only sometimes maybe do one show, because that's all we can afford to do and know that we can do it well. And so sometimes our rehearsal processes will be like 7 to 10 weeks, because that way we can only rehearse 3 days a week and give people time, because they've got full-time jobs and they're doing the show on the side, to still be able to memorize lines and to have time between their work and their theater life. So everything we do is just, it's not the norm, but just trying to figure out what is healthy and human for everyone involved. And believe me, we learned a lot of lessons where it's like, oh, that did not work, and we have to change that next time. So those are just some examples of what I think more theaters might be interested in trying now in this new time period, where people are more aware of the harm that has happened.
Thank you so much for offering that into space, Kathy. I think it's also about, as we, thinking about students who are wondering this, they're wondering, hey, we're experiencing things in academia that are inequitable and all of these things. I could raise my hand and tell you a whole story about my own postgraduate experience. We won't go there today. So I'm curious about all of our varying levels of fluency with regards to this work, and that being able to admit where you are hey, I'm just starting, or I feel like I'm in the middle, you know, I'm intermediate in terms of my skills and my knowledge and ability to exact change, to affect change within my institution or within my class, or for those of you who are directors or designers or in position of lead facilitation. What being transparent about where you are, it just allows folks to say, okay, then that's where you are. And where's your measurable accountability? I'm going to do X and X for the next 3 months. And I'm going to see, you know, I'll do something simple, right? We're talking a lot about access right now, asking about access needs at the start of Zoom meetings or at the start of rehearsal and start of class, right? Maybe you're just learning that you need to ask that. That's okay. We have varying levels of fluency. So maybe you decide, oh, for the next 10 classes or next 10 meetings, I'm going to strive for 7 times out of 10 to ask about access needs. And then when you get to the end of those 10 classes, meetings, whatever it is you're facilitating, you can say, okay, well, how did I do? And be transparent about that with folks. Don't try to lie. Oh, I did it perfectly. It's great. I did it 10 times in a row. Now I am an expert, right? Now I am a master of asking about access needs. No, you're not. It's aspirational. It's going to be, it's a daily effort to centralize access and to centralize those who are in most need. So Yehan and I are both come from a trauma-informed practice background. And so that also helps. That helps Yehan a lot. Yehan is an incredible facilitator. And I would actually, Yehan, would you like to jump in about kind of the vibe where I'm going, talking about varying levels of fluency and to be honest about where you are in the work and asking for help and just a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. Ooh, you're muted.
You're off mic.
Thank you so much. I didn't say much. I said I'm a processor, so I'll need to like talk my way to a response. So one of the things I think I'm hearing Jay mention is the humility that comes with being human. And it's acknowledging that because of who you are and how you came to be here and the story your body tells with and without your consent, there are things that you did not grow up knowing you needed to be able to care for. And there are identities and perspectives that as a facilitator, you are not always aware of, are in the room, and you are responsible for creating the container. And so one of the things that is real for me, and I work with 5th graders. I also work with Microsoft employees. I also work with Amazon Studios, right? Like there are so many people with whom I work. And it just like, ego, right? Like it is the thing for me in all my rehearsal spaces is laughter. And like, if I'm not laughing, it's a weird situation. And I also lead with making sure that the space holds place for all of my identities, because when you centralize the marginalized voices, then the idea is that all the needs will get met. And it's also moving at a pace that is slow enough for grace. I just made that up, but I'm really proud of it. So like, someone help me remember that. A space that's slow enough for grace, because when someone misgenders me, or when someone says, like, thinks that my son is Black when he's actually white, right? Like when someone does harm, the thing that I need is to move at the space that allows me to, one, be as graceful as I am as a human being, which is like, you don't know me, you don't know how to pronounce my name. It's all good, we're good. And or move at the space that if someone used the R word in one of my rehearsals the other day, and I was like, I'm the director, shit, this is mine. And so then it's like, oh, I then have to like make sure that at the beginning, I'm setting the example for it. These are the things that we're going to talk about. I'm not expecting you to be perfect. I am expecting you to be prepared to be held accountable. And so humility is the thing that like rocks with me very much. Like I am humble, I am not perfect. And also work with children because they will humble you all of the time. Also, thank you, Andrew, for writing that down.
I don't know. I hope it's okay, Yehan, if I can share a story that involves you of when.
I think I know. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I was brought in to do this racial equity training, a foundational one for a group of artists who were being supported by a local theater company. And it was a very diverse room. And I was instructed to do a very basic training. And I'm so used to so many of the trainings that I'm brought in to do. Most of the people are usually white or Asian American. And so I'm used to having to really have people lean in and be uncomfortable because they have to overcome their fear of talking about race. And so I was laying down some of those ground rules. And there was one point where Yehan, who was a participant in the room, was just like, because of some of the stuff that was coming up, and they needed to leave. And so afterwards, I asked what was the problem. And when Yehan explained to me, like, there is a different experience when you're in a racial equity training, especially since I was really pushing hard to get the white and the Asian American people to acknowledge some of our issues around race that come off very differently if you are in a Black or brown body. And I had the blind spot about it. I didn't realize that. And what I so loved that Yehan was open to is I said, oh my gosh, I so hear that. I would love to know more, but I don't want to put this on a burden on you. If you are willing to have coffee with me sometime, and I know it would be a gift of your time to do so, because it shouldn't be on you to educate me. I should be able to learn this myself, but that would be such a gift to me if you would be willing to share some time with me so I can learn more, so I can work on my stuff. And Yehan was so gracious and met me for coffee at the station. And we talked, and that was like the best gift I could have ever gotten. And I've taken that since then, where if I don't get offended when something happens, my inside, I might feel my gut go, oh, but I actually feel it so much grace and gratitude when someone is willing to tell me that I offended them, where I caused trauma or harm. And I believe that as a gift, because a lot of other people, they would just not have anything to do with me anymore. And because of that experience, it's really allowed me to really lean in and have grace. But it starts with me getting my ego out of the way and not feeling like, oh, I'm the teacher here, I know what's best. No, I don't. I learn so much more from anyone I work with than I feel like I'm giving to them. So I so appreciate the fact that you allowed me that grace so that I could then remember that and give that to other people that I interact with. So thank you.
Okay, I think we have one more question, and we'll do this a little, try to keep it concise. Maybe hear a couple words from each person. Then we'll take about a 3 to 5 minute break, just a little screen break. And in that break, y'all, our guests out there, if you would go ahead and drop a question, understanding that there's quite a number of you, so we won't be able to get to each question, but we'll try to select a few to spend the last 15-20 minutes or so kind of hearing directly from you and engaging in that conversation. Brandon, I think that is your question.
Oh, yes. Question. What do you love about the Seattle theater community, and what is your hope for the future of theater? I guess I could start. What do I love about the Seattle theater community? It was very inviting to me. I'm not from Seattle. I'm from Oakland. And I came here, and it was a seamless transition. So many people that I've met here have been just incredibly kind and genuine to me. And I appreciate that. You know, that's not a guarantee everywhere. As far as my hope for the future of theater, I know that at the end of May in 2020, for whatever reason, the world suddenly kind of believed that Black people exist and things that we went through were valid or something was happening to us. And being in Seattle for sure, being a minority and seeing a bunch of faces that don't look like me outside, speaking up and voice and, you know, hoorah and all of that was great. It was beautiful. We needed all of that. I hope for the theater goes back that we keep that same energy that we had when we couldn't do anything, when it comes time to getting his work done. And that translates back to the art, because I think that me personally, as an artist, that's how I make my change. So if we was making change over there, we cared about it, make a change over here, and funky. That's all I gotta say about that.
Ooh, our tech guru behind the scenes selected me to go next. This box just came, and I'm like, oh, it's my turn. What I really love about Seattle, so I'm originally from New York, and what I really love about Seattle theater community is just all of the artists here are just down. They're down to clown at any time. You want to do any kind of project, anything, they're like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, let's go to somebody's living room, basement, coffee shop. It doesn't even matter. Like, folks here are just down to create. And I really love that, because I've really created, I found a lot of family here, and I've been here for 5 years now. And so, it's because of the artists here in this community that I'm even still here. Because really, I would like to take my behind back to New York, but y'all really have a pull. Like, I feel a gravitational pull here. So I'm chilling. And my hope for the future would be that same energy of artists down to collaborate, that same energy actually continues exponentially, and it's not just applied to creative projects, but it is applied to uprooting and dismantling white supremacist practices and the perpetuation of systemic racism, which is on each of us within the theater industrial complex, particularly in America, but also is a global issue, is that same energy to go do something weird in somebody's basement, and like, it doesn't matter, I'll expend all of that energy, I'll stay up late. That same kind of commitment must extend to making this theater system better, to weeding out the weeds, whether it means we create our own stuff, which I'm down to do, slide into my DMs, not that I need to add another project, but that would be my hope, is that same energy, apply that to fixing and building a better world, which is primarily, right, the job of global minority creators who are in positions of leadership. Y'all don't get to step down and pass it to somebody. Y'all don't get to say, Sharmona Mitchell, would you like to be the artistic director of this institution within which I've done zero work? Would you like to clean up the mess that I have mostly unconsciously been part of perpetuating? Would you like to come in and be a Band-Aid? No. Y'all need to fix it, and then we're happy to come on in, maybe, after we assess the situation. So it's got to take all of us. We all have to take that same energy. We see white American theater, this. Oh, I miss theater so much. I want to create with my friends. Y'all, we're grounded right now. That's what I feel like. And nobody's allowed to come outside to play again until we actually have a plan for fixing this stuff and becoming better, more human-centric, more relational, process over product oriented, so we can start to just obliterate this capitalist quantity over quality. Like, it's gotta go. So my hope is that's what we are hopefully doing right now, but that's what we can continue to do as we're allowed to come out and play again. And I so can't wait to play again. I'm gonna make some weird stuff, y'all.
It's so weird how you just like go front. It's like someone's like pushing you to center stage or something. It's very bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking exactly what Jay was saying about what makes Seattle cool, is that it's a place where, you know, if you've got a wicked idea, you can put it together, and there are people that will work with you, and you can find people, and you can put up really cool stuff on your own. You know, that's how I came to Seattle. I came with a group of friends, and we started making weird theater in people's basements and in fringe scene. And, you know, I love it. I love the ecosystem here. I love the community here. Some of the best theater artists in the country live here. And what I also love about the community is that people are here to make theater. They're not here to go to Broadway. They're not here to make movies and do theater on the side. They may do that too. And a lot of people, like on this panel we've heard today, do a lot of different things. They write, they direct, they act, they design, they produce, they educate. And I think that makes the whole ecosystem richer because people aren't stuck in one category or another. They do lots of different things. And what I hope is the same. I want to make this theater ecology stronger, healthier. I think that definitely requires all of us to do the anti-racist work that we're all doing right now. And I love theater in its exquisite variety. I love that you can go to one theater and see one kind of show, another theater and see a different kind of show. We need all of that variety. So the more distinctive I think theaters can become in the city, and the more we can support them to do that, I think that there's been a tendency over the last 20 years for theaters to move slowly towards each other as economic pressures and the pressures that Jay was just talking about push on all of us towards a certain kind of programming. How can we support each other in breaking out of that and expressing ourselves as artists and making the theater that we kind of want to make and create the kind of variety of form, of content, of expression, of storytelling that we want to see for a healthy theater ecosystem. And really, I'd love to see this city believe in itself more, to have the kind of confidence that I think we deserve to have because there are so many great artists working here and making work here.
Yes, I love the Seattle theater scene, and I believe it's the thing that's going to keep me here because this is a city that creates space for the dreamers and the makers and the movers and the shakers. And I love that energy. I love that sense of artistry and the hope of creating really impactful, everlasting, and meaningful change in conversations. I'll keep it short. My hope for the future is that we'll take the lessons we've learned in this time forward, not just a time to cram for the test at the end of the thing, but to actually learn the lessons, to do the work, to make change that is beyond the checkbox that we want to check off or see white-led organizations check off just so they can get a pat on the back and a gold sticker at the end of the day. But checking off the work that matters so that the change continues and we grow and we move and we fly and we just keep going. It's a journey, and it's not something that's just done at the end of the day. It's a thing that's done over many days, and it's a journey. And I'll leave it there.
I can go next. Something that I love about the Seattle theater community and just feel so inspired about kind of heading into the next part of my life is the same sentiment that Kathy and Yehan shared in the beginning of like so many Seattle people being theater artists and having so many disciplines and being inspired by not just fitting yourself in one little box as an artist, but having the ability and being supported to do more than one thing. So that's what I love about this community. And something I'm really hopeful for is to just keep having conversations like this and to be in a community that values conversations and events like this one and that supports this kind of work. Yeah.
I love Seattle Theater because of all the people, from the artists to the administrators to the audience. I go see almost 200 shows a year, even last year during the pandemic online. And it's because just the sheer brilliance and talent, because of people like Mona and Jay and Yehan and all of you students coming up. I go see all of your shows at Cornish, the UW, Seattle U, even high school shows I go see because I just love the energy that theater artists have. So thank all of you for making me love Seattle theater. And my future hope is that we will become even more human-centric so that everyone can actually thrive and continue to stay doing theater because it's as nourishing to you as the brilliance that you share with the community.
What I love about us, I love that we are an ecosystem, and you look around and there's something amazing and beautiful to look at, to work with, to be a part of, and the potential that Seattle has, and that is just walking around all the time, and you're like, oh wow, you're out here really doing this. And so what I look forward to in the future is how do we take our theater community and expand it into the Seattle community, and how do we work with them and how do they work with us, because it's not enough to just build these organizations and these institutions and entertain each other. That's not the point. We have to start working with those around us. Whose stories are we telling? We're telling those stories. So how do we bring those people into the fold? You know, we could have some really amazing hair designers out in the CD, but we don't know because we don't check. You know, we could have some really great scenic designers in the houseless community, but we don't check. So how do we start incorporating ourselves into the community? I look forward to building community with Seattle.
Okay, so I may have done this answer wrong, but I'm gonna stick with it. So this is the answer that I came up with, and there are things that I like hopeful about for the future. I think our next mayor is super important, particularly with the power around participatory budgeting and the ways in which we as Seattle residents have the ability to tell the mayor what we believe in and where arts funding should go. I think the next director of the Office of Arts and Culture is really super crucial. I think that there are ways in which we can, because we saw the failure of the Seattle structures when the pandemic hit, because we had to do so much mutual aid for our own survival. And I remember one day I was like, ooh, I should donate to Ijoma's Artist Relief Fund. By the end of the day, I was submitting for Ijoma's Artist Relief Fund. I was like, oh my gosh. And so the thing for me is like, oh, we actually need systems. We need to hold the people that are running for office, hold the people that are like going for new jobs to say like, what are the systems that you're going to create? Can we create an artistic universal basic income? So that way the artists are taken care of, because you clearly still need us. You clearly still need our entertainment. And yet this is the only way that we survive. I'm excited for up and coming businesses to not feed into the nonprofit industrial complex, because just as we have noticed, the nonprofits thrive because rich folks who are they are deeply rooted in capitalism get a tax benefit for giving to theaters. And so when you have to you're figuring out where your money goes, you're going to pull it back. And so I'm excited for theater artists to look at business structures that are not rooted in nonprofit industrial complex and then contribute to theater industrial complex, because we need something that's different. I'm excited for us to use space differently, because, I think, theater, we start out with Greek theater and with proscenium and black box, but I also think we need to recognize gentrification is real. We have so many houseless folks, and it is it is unique to have a space that is all yours without a bill collector over your back. And so what are the ways in which, yes, we can be theater, but also double with other art forms, because all of us are really struggling. Some of the things I love about Seattle theater is I have this quote that I say to white people, particularly in equity, where I'm like, just fuck up in a different direction. You do not have the same level of the technical skill and race that I do, but I have it because I was humiliated. One of my mentors says, you cannot be humble without experiencing humiliation, which is one of the reasons that Black folks, Indigenous folks, and other bodies of color and brown bodies have the inferiority complexes that we do. And so I'm really excited for, oh my gosh, I just lost my, oh wait, Jay, what did I just say? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, someone help me. Shimona!
You were talking about the structures. Oh,
okay, yeah. I just the thing that's important is we're a business, and the goal is we're trying to get money, we're trying to be sustainable. And if we do not have other ways to make money, then we're not going to be able to exist in the world that already exists. And we're not going to be able to do the theater that we used to love in the new world that's going to come up. I love, fucking up in a different direction. Yeah. White people, you got to fuck up in a different direction. I know it feels bad, but keep doing it. Black people, you have to do your anti-Blackness work. Asian folks, you have to do your anti-Blackness work. Everyone has to do their work. There is work in your own body for everything. And I'm excited for a theater community that will be held accountable to all of the work that we did when it was quiet and silent outside. Because when white organizations are doing this work, you were talking to other white people, the people that have been doing race equity work, the people that have created systems where I felt oh, I feel good and I feel heard. Those are the people that I'm working with. You've already proven yourself. You now need the next 20 years of your track record of this diversity work to prove to me that you are worth me contributing to your economy. Thank you.
Woo! Yay! Yay! Every time, all the time. Do y'all get it? I know that there's some of you who are in the audience who know Yehan very well, but for those who don't, baby, get familiar, because if you don't look up more information about Yehan and try to make a connection, I don't know what exactly you're doing. Let's go ahead and take a 3-minute screen break, and then we'll come back for about 15 minutes. If you have a question or you just want to put a comment into space, I'm happy to read those out and deal with a couple of those questions that you all might have. So let's take a 3-minute break, and I hope that you enjoy our break music. Thanks, Sean.
Been around the whole world, still ain't seen nothing like my neighborhood. And of all of the fancy satin and silk, my white cotton feels so good. Search high and low for a place where I can lay my burdens down. Ain't nothing in the whole wide world like the peace that I have found. In the little things and the joy they bring. It's the little things and the joy they bring. Yeah. Simple as a phone call just to make it known that you're gonna be a little late. Pure as a kiss on a cheek and a word that everything will be okay. Call in the morning from my little sister singing to me happy birthday. In the quest for fortune and fame, don't forget about the simple thing. Yeah. It's the little things and the joy they bring. Yeah. It's the little things. It's the little things and the joy. Give me some good food, give me some cute shoes, give me some peace of mind. Give me some sunshine, give me some blue sky. Running round in circles, lost my focus, lost sight of my goals. I do this for the love of music, not for the glitter and gold. Got everything that I prayed for, even a little more. When I asked to learn humility, this is what I was told. It's the little things and the joy they bring. It's the little things. It's the little things. Oh. Give me my guitar, give me a bright star, give me some good news, give me some cute shoes, give me Atlanta, give me Savannah, give me my peace of mind. Give me some Stevie, give me some Donnie, give me my daddy, give me my mommies, pour me some sweet tea, spoonful of honey. I don't need no Hollywood.
Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls, best thing in the world. Never trade you for anybody else. And brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls, the best thing in the world. I never trade you for anybody else. Singing.
She's Say she really grew up poor like me. Don't believe in nothing but the Almighty. Just a little jeans and a pure whitey. She never dreamed forever be nobody wifey. Yeah. She well, I mean, a pretty but your heart is a miss. Play you like a villain cause she caught in a way. Tonight I am walking away. 9 to 5 mine and I grind, yeah. Tonight I might fall in love, depending on how you hold me. I'm glad that I'm calming down. Can't let no one come control me. Keep dancing and call it love. She fights it by falling slowly. If ever you are in doubt, remember what mama told me. Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Your back against the world. I never tried you for anybody else. A brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. The best thing in all the world. I never tried you for anybody else.
Pose like a trophy when Naomi's walking. She need an Oscar for that pretty dark skin. Pretty like Lupita when the camera's closing. Drip broke the levee when my killer's rolling. I think tonight she might braid her braids. Melanin too dark to throw her shade. She minds her business and winds her waist. Roll like 24K. Okay.
Tonight I might fall in love, depending on how you hold me. I'm glad that I'm calming down. Can't let no one come control me. Keep dancing and call it love. She fighting but falling slowly. If ever you are in doubt, remember what mama told me. Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Your back against the world. I never tried you for anybody else. A brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. The best thing in all the world. I never tried you for anybody else.
Oh, have you looked in the mirror lately? Wish you could trade eyes with me. There's complexities in complexion, but your skin is glow like diamonds. Dig me like the earth, you be giving birth to everything alive, baby, know your worth. I love everything about you, from your nappy curls to every single curve, your body natural. Same skin that was broken, me the same skin taking over. Most things out of focus view, but when you're in the room, they notice you. Cause you're beautiful. Yeah, you're beautiful. Them gon' fall in love with you in all of your glory. Your skin is not only dark, it shines and it tells your story. Keep dancing, they can't control you. They watch and they all adore you. If ever you are in doubt, remember what mama told you. Brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Your back against the wall. I never tried you for anybody else. Say brown skin girl, your skin just like pearls. The best thing about the world. I never tried you for anybody else. Say
skin girl, your skin just like pearls. Best thing in the world. I never tried you for anybody else singing.
Cold hand, sharp pencil. I scribble the stanza as my hands are trembling. Grade 7 made heaven out of words. I began to build a world that only I inhabit. I got a habit of rapping about tragic shit. I think I'm just passionate, trying to steer the way while in the dark. Hope I ain't crashing it. Now my little hobby turned to cash now. Thinking about who I'd be if I listen to doubt. Said I'd never do it, well look at me now. Young girl, oh dream, oh soul, oh dear. Plan B, plan well, good luck, no fear. Just wait and God will tell you when the time's near. But if I never jump, then I die here. Ain't no right. hard till you pick up speed. They think college is all you need, and I don't blame you brainwashing on you, G. It took me 19 years to finally start to believe, and that's me. Listen.
I'ma make it in the rain or shine. All about my money, don't waste my time. Ain't nobody gonna bring me down. I'm on an elevator. I'm on to something greater. Ain't nobody gonna take my crown.
Okay, this is for the kids with depression, the ones whose parental expectations got them stressing, the ones who would rather persevere, but they trying to make it because they ain't really living in the present. They out here grinding, seeking perfect timing, tuning out the useless voices that discourage rhyming. Get a real job, I don't argue with my destiny. And if my choices don't affect you, why you testing me? And as of late, I've been asking God why he blessing me. I could cry enough tears to feel the Chesapeake. Hold it together, girl, you deserve the world. And if no one else will say it, then I spit it to the mic in the studio when I lay it, and I play it when you discouraged. I know chasing the impossible takes some courage. And I can promise at the end of your journey, when it's all said and done, will nothing feel much better than hearing my nigga you won. Hey,
I'ma make it in the rain or shine. All about my money, don't waste my time. Ain't nobody gonna bring me down. I'm on an elevator. I'm on to something greater. Ain't nobody gonna take my crown.
Cool. Welcome back, everyone. It is snowing harder now. I got up and went to the restroom and I looked outside and I said, oh, okay, cool. We have a question that we decided to pull from, we got questionnaires in from students across the schools, and we found this question and we thought actually we'd love to end our time together with this. And a student asked, or well, many, but a student asked, what advice do you have for theater students who have very complicated and anxiety-ridden feelings about the pandemic and their education and coming into the theater industry? We're all shut down. Basically, any words of wisdom and encouragement for nervous theater students during this time?
If you can't tell, we are all equally nervous.
I thought about the question. I put myself in there. I thought about a pandemic, and then I laughed out loud. Like, these precious babies. Foremost, you know what? I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna double dutch real quick. Real talk. Your feelings are valid. Straight up. No one has had to do this before, and there is no course for this. There's no pathway. What I do know is that, we're here with welcoming arms, and we understand this year and maybe the next year and a half. Who knows how long this takes? But we're here. We got you, and we're going to get you through this. And the thing about theater is it's one of those things where you learn by doing. And just know, when I look at my body of work, when I first started out, it was trash. It just was. And, and I didn't have to do it online. It was trash. And so it is in my heart, it is in my brain, it is in my body. I will not let you fall. If you were in my room, my cast, my company, I'm not going to let you fall. That's just not what we're going to do. So go out here, make some art, be brave about it, ask the questions when you have them, and know, yeah, as Yehan said, sometimes you're going to have to fuck up in a different direction. That just is what it is. So yeah, be bold, my friends. You got this.
Yeah, I would say that, words like nerves and anxiety. Any students out there, did y'all see the way nerves and anxiety arrived in our body just now, as Yan commented on? It's like y'all, that is what we all are right now. If you show me a person who's like, I'm cool, I'm chilling, and I'll show you a liar. I'll show you a liar. So I would say that, you know, really leaning into your studies, trying to dig deeper into it, right? You have the time, so don't skim that chapter. Actually read the chapter, right? I can speak from the eye. I did that. I skimmed some theater, chapters, books, sometimes. I write them later. I'm okay, but I'm telling you right now that at that time I was breaking my whole behind doing as we all do when it's not pandemic times. So what I'm suggesting to you is use the time to dig into that theory that can sometimes seem boring because you want to get into the rehearsal room, you want to get into space with each other and do that. And that's valid, that's real. But now it's like, well, let's dig in on the other end. And you can send those emails to artistic directors, right? I just finished a master's program and I spent time messaging all kinds of theater companies being like, hey, could I talk to a designer about this production that I saw a clip of? I'd love to know more about that person, right? Would you mind connecting me? Like I just slid into, the info emails, right? Box office emails, whatever email I could find. I just said, bloop, 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 bloop. Can I set up a meeting with you? I've talked to dozens of theater creators in the United States and in the UK. I was going to school in the UK. And I filled my time there. So I was just trying to, whatever I could do to kind of quell my own nerves and like, am I learning the right things here in my postgraduate education? Is it gonna matter, right? Is it gonna matter my degree that is from pandemic time? Yes, it matters. Yes, your studies matter. Yes, it matters that it's okay if you don't lean into the studies. It's okay if you don't read that extra chapter. It's okay if you can't finish writing that 25-page paper because we can't have that sort of perfectionist construct when we're trying to get through a whole entire global crisis. Many folks of which in the United States aren't treating it as that. So until everybody does the damn homework, as my friend Shimona would say, until everybody does the homework, we ain't getting out of this, y'all. So it's like students right now, the way that you feel is shared. The way that you feel is seen and heard. And trust me, when you start applying to jobs and you're trying to get out there and promote yourself and be immersed in whatever communities, be that here in Seattle, or if you go back to your hometown or you want to go to New York or Chicago, trust me, everybody will be so welcoming that you were able to even complete your program during this time. The feat that you were even able to complete your program, that is miraculous on its own. That any student right now could be so engaged and keep showing up and doing the work as you're able, as you can, and ask for help, y'all. Ask for help. I can speak for myself, and I know many others on this panel. You can get in contact with us. If you want to just kick it for a minute, you don't even want to talk about theater, you just want some advice, you want to talk about life, please, I'm available because this is hard right now and it's very serious. It's not a joke. So let me back up. People go, other people go.
I'll go. Just like what Mona and Jay said, reach out to us. I'm going to actually pop my email address in a sec in the chat so that you have that, my public one. I have mentored a lot of especially young Asian American theater artists who in high school age and college age. So we are here because we really do believe in this idea of a beloved community. I will also be very transparent that I'm going to pop those email addresses. I invite anyone to reach out to me, but I'm also dealing with a lot of stuff during this time too. And I know that we're here for you, but we're human as well. And I might not be able to respond right away because sometimes I get literally like 500 emails in a week or a day. And so but I always do try to get back at availability that I can. This last year has felt like I've probably felt more emotions of every single kind than I've ever felt within a span of a day. But I will just share a story really quick. When I was in college at the UW, I remember there was one time I had to give, it was a public speaking class, so I had to actually give a speech. And I was so freaked out, and I don't know why I became so anxious about that I actually ended up hiding in my closet for 3 days. I'm serious about this. Anyone who knows me now would be like, what? But that was how much anxiety I had. I literally had to hide in the back corner of my closet. And I was so depressed after that the memory is actually starting to really get to me, but that is real. So whatever you're feeling, know that it will get better. But the place that starts is the story that I shared before about when I first graduated from college. I needed a community. I needed people that I felt connected to. So that's why I started the Actors Group. So if there are other students that you identify with, even if it's just one other student in your class, or if there's a professor that you really connect with, my saving grace was one of my teachers in high school. So reach out to them. You are not alone. There's so many other people who feel the way you do. And it just starts with just building that little family that can support you through it and have each other's backs. And if you feel so isolated that you don't know someone that you feel that you can do that, then definitely reach out to me. I'll give you my email address and just let me know, be upfront, be real, and I will definitely respond right away, because we are all in this together and we're here.
I'll just add, get offline some too, like get outside. Yehan mentioned her plants, and that's real, actually. Like one of the things that I've done is I've actually started to learn about the birds that are in my neighborhood, and sort of why I watch the patterns of the crows every day. And it sounds a little weird, but I think it helps me with my attention and maybe anxiety, just to go out and notice things and walk around. I think, I spend so much time in my house now. I feel like there's a wear pattern from my desk to my kitchen and back. But I can't help but think that when I look back on this time, I'm also going to see where there was some value in having all of my routines broken and all of my plans broken, and that new relationships formed and new patterns of thinking and new behaviors. It's an opportunity in that way. And I know that doesn't alleviate any of the anxiety of the unknown, and that anxiety is real. And I really sympathize with all of you who are going through that out there, especially students. It's such a critical time to set up for your future. And I know every sort of year, every moment feels very critical, and it is. But look for those places where you can try something different and look at something that seems so familiar to you in a different light. And sometimes that's just going out and like learning the names of things and listening to the world around you in a different way. That's worked for me.
I would love to add to this as well, because I was in this position, and there are still anxieties. I'm about to graduate, and a year ago I wondered, how's my thesis going to happen? How's my staged work? This is what my entire education has built to, and I definitely want to just echo a lot of what these panelists have said, and also shout out my mentor, Valerie Curtis Newton, who reminded me that this is a time to really turn inward and develop that spirit of resilience, an opportunity to dive in, because we don't know what's next. And whatever happens next, we as students currently in it and practicing it in real time, we are developing a set of skills in real time that is new. And whatever the next iteration of theater is, those of us who are graduating into it are graduating into a space to be the makers and to be the changers of the space. We are practicing how to attend class in Zoom, how to not fall prey to Zoom exhaustion, how to use the camera in a creative way that doesn't just speak to us as film, but also theatrically. So really turning inward, not asking yourself, what is this program still giving to me, but what can I still get within this program to develop that artist within me that has a unique voice ready to share with the world? Because at the end of the day, when we walk down that graduation aisle, we're stepping into a new world that we get to help make. We can take the lessons learned within pandemic and within our programs and unify them into a new, hopefully more beautiful thing. And yeah, hell yeah, I'm still nervous. It'd be silly if I wasn't. But I think we're all, as theater makers, theater's been around forever, since the beginning of oral tradition, when we pass down stories to our communities to enact spiritual needs to get a culture shifted. We turned to the arts. We turned to each other and said, let's make a thing, let's do a thing, let's tell a story. So those nerves can be paralyzing, but at some point you have to turn that spirit of resiliency into action so we can make something new.
I have a thought I would love to share that echoes what everyone else said. I completely agree. One of the things I think that's also true around theater, and I think Braden spoke to this around, like people are in Seattle to do theater. Like if people want to do Broadway, they go over there. I came from theater on the East Coast, and so it was very much like, if you're not doing Broadway, something is wrong. I went to college and I was like, I want to be a theater teacher. And like, I have always loved being a theater teacher. I've been a theater teacher for 20 years. I will always be a theater teacher. And yet sometimes that's not good enough for people by their own definition. I had someone that I have loved since I was probably 12, and they were like, they saw me 2 years ago. They're like, are you even acting still? And I was like, wait, what? Wow, why is that even a question? Just because if I don't have a contract right now, or if I'm not rehearsing a show, that doesn't mean I'm any less of an actor. If I'm not writing, that doesn't mean I'm any less of a playwright. If I'm not directing, right? Like, just because you are not currently doing the thing that you have always loved or that you have trained to do does not mean that you are not an actor. The work that has been most meaningful to me is the work that has come about in my late 30s. And that's because, like, I don't know, they don't really write. If you're a younger person, they don't really write great shit for younger folks. And so for me, it was like, oh, I actually just needed to age into my category, so that way there was different material for me. And so I think there's the definite fear and the anxiety that is hella valid around being a recent graduate. And then there's the definite fear and the anxiety around, like, oh, the world is actually going through a global event and we don't know. And so I think with that piece, I'm directing the show at Book It right now, and two people I was in conversation with from the design team, and I look at them as experts in their fields. And I was like, and we all were like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, in the same conversation. And we've been in this for double-digit years. And so I think the advice I have is to recognize that we are, every day, I go, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then I just make a choice. And I think the thing that is different is like, oh, I just am better prepared to deal with the choice and the response and the fallout from the choices that I've made. And so my first advice is get whatever job you can that will pay the bills that you need to pay to get food in your stomach. If you need to have a car, pay to have a car, to like get on a train, to get a bike, like get yourself set, and then go into the world of theater, because nothing is guaranteed. And that's scary for me. And my resume looks dope. So like, don't let this individual moment define you. Don't feel the need to be at the front of all of the things. Like, do you, Queen Latifah said, she was like, what is for you is for you. What is for you is for you. Global pandemic be damned. And so, yeah, like, do that. Also, I know people are like, yeah, reach out to me. Here's the thing. I'm super reclusive. People invite me places. I don't go anywhere. You can absolutely reach out to me. I'm on the internet. And I am a Black trans person in a pandemic. So like, I am also, like Kathy said, struggling. And the best ways that like to show up and partner with me are like, hey, here's what I have. Here's the idea that I have. Like, is a way we can go together? But coming to me to be like, oh, can I have a job, or can I work with you or for you? That's never going to work, because that puts the onus on me to make work for you, rather than saying, hey, here's the work that I'm really amazing at. Here's the work that you are doing. Here are the ways in which they can go together. And to know that me saying, oh, that doesn't work for now, doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about it every day for the next year when it is time for us to collaborate. So reach out, be humble, but also don't be too humble. Like, you're a valid human being on your own. And just be patient because we're all fucking figuring it out.
Absolutely. This question speaks super true to me. I just graduated, so all this feeling of anxiety and not knowing what to do is real as fuck. As you can see, everyone else speaking to the same thing. I will say one thing that has helped me is the number one rule is there are no rules. And right now with this pandemic and everything that we are living in, because no one knows what to do, I feel like the playing field is more level than it's ever been before. There, as far as like hierarchies or not knowing what to do or who do I talk to or anything like that, I feel like anyone is reachable if you make the attempt to. It doesn't hurt to ask. This week, for sure, like for me in the last 7 days, I've had like 10 meetings with various people from all walks of life within theater. And that just came from me hitting up the email like, yo, you got a minute? I know you're busy. I just want to chop it up for a second. And they all were pretty responsive. And if you think that a whole bunch of other theaters like got it all figured out, they don't. I'm telling you, no, they really do not. I'm 26 years old and people are asking me for advice. Who knows? Just find your love in the craft. If you are doing something that you love, somehow, some way, it gets figured out. And we all in this together. You know, it's valid. It is 100% valid the way that you feel. And I feel for you. And anybody that want to reach out, holla at me. I'm super accessible. I'm everywhere in these streets with a mask on, absolutely 6 feet away. But Instagram, Facebook, email, all of that, I'm super easy to reach. And I respond to pretty much any and everyone. Holla at your boy.
Thank you so much, Brendan. And thank you, everyone, for being gathered here today. Thanks for answering my call to hang out. And thanks, folks, for joining us. I know we've kind of gone a little bit over time, but I feel like, you know, it's coming down in buckets out there. And so, you know, we won't keep you any longer, but I feel like this felt right. But now I think we should dance it out. So I think that DJ Sean Bellier has a nice little song for us. And thank you so much.
All right, let's go. Hey, you gotta bounce to this like this. You almost gotta watch to this. Let's skate.
Your love so good. I don't wanna let go. And although I should, I can't leave you alone. 'Cause you're so disarming and caught up in the midst of you. Right there. And I cannot resist. The things you want to do, the way you still make me love break my heart, break you promise on me, but I just keep on coming back incessantly.
You gotta bounce like this.
Did you have to run your game on me? I should have known right from the start. You go and break my heart. Give me a love, 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 give me a love.
She said, she won. She said, yeah, give me back.
It's so shy to be so euphoric and weak when you smile at me. And you tell me the things that you know persuade me to relinquish my love to you. But I
What's up? The bounce,